All right, well, hello everybody and welcome back down into the basement for kind of a look at what's going on with the aquaponic garden and maybe a little bit of discussion of where the channel's going to head in 2020, you know, kind of a vision of the future, because it is 2020 after all. People have been making that pun for years, waiting for this opportunity. On the other hand, I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to grow in my garden. But yeah, we'll take a look at the aquaponics first. I still haven't got a light down on the fish tank, so we can't really take much of a look at them. But things in the garden itself are coming along fairly well. I do need to add some chelated iron, so we'll probably do that really quickly today as well. And yeah, just take it and see where it goes from there, I guess. All right, move you so you can see the garden. All right, so taking a look at the aquaponics from the Darwin table side, we can see, hopefully you can actually see it this time around, the thyme is really not doing very well. Kind of surprised. I still haven't gotten more fish in here, so it could be just not quite enough nitrogen in the system, not enough potassium because of the poop, who knows, but for some reason the thyme is not doing well. We can see here, hopefully you can see the oreganos that I planted in. They seem to be growing fairly well. A couple of them are struggling a little bit, kind of drying on the top, but we've got some nice green on the bottom. So I'm thinking maybe I'll just do some snipping off the top of these, and we'll encourage some sideways growth. Get rid of the really nasty looking stuff on the top of that anyway. That's from the original planting, that's very dry. And hopefully when we check back on these next time, they'll have bushed out a little bit. We'll have some more green in here. Like I say, we are going to add a little bit of iron at some point, but you know, when it comes to overall green, look at this parsley. Isn't this beautiful? Things, you know, taller than my full hand right there. So hopefully you can see that off to the side. I know we're on the edge of the camera there, but I'll just snip one of these. Oh, I gotta love that though. I mean, that really doesn't look bad. But the parsley are the first two plants to get the water as it goes into the system, because I've got my intake right on the end here, which I think is, there we go, got my intake right on the very end here. So it goes to the parsley first, and then it kind of slowly floods its way across and ends up in the drain way at the other end. You know, basic aquaponic flood and drain system. But there's a good chance that this parsley is just stealing, oh, it smells so good, all of the nutrients before, like the oregano here, for example, can actually get it. And down at the end with the thyme, we'll spin a little bit here, down at the end with the thyme, I mean, it could be just plain water again by the time it gets down here. I'm not quite sure. And that's another reason that I advocate for deeper beds than this. When you've got a deeper bed, you can just get a lot more nutrients flowing through it, a lot more water flowing through it. The drain is right here, so this is pretty much always in a lower state of liquid than the front end of the bed is. So it's just, having deeper beds helps with some of that in my previous experiences. So I'm looking forward to doing something about that. Still got all that liquid rubber, so I might just get around to building that one of these days. Now that we're actually kind of in a permanent settled situation, it doesn't seem like such a bad idea. Got the basil. Accidentally broke the top off of this basil, but that's not a bad thing because it's going to fork out a little bit. And I guess while we're harvesting parsley, one great way to get more growth on your basil is to take these bigger leaves off without like cutting the whole thing. And the little ones that are there will kind of grow in to fill up the space. You know, maybe that doesn't work for everybody, but it has worked very well for me in the past. And you know, you get rid of some of this older stuff. Now I have the luxury of having chickens to feed the less than perfect basil leaves to, and the nicer ones will just end up in our salads. But the chickens love this. I'm going to get some of that mint for them as well. You know what, I might as well just give them the parsley. It's a good healthy salad for them in the wintertime. I'm leaving the sage. I'm not sure how well it's showing up in the camera here, but we've still got some nice flowers going on. I was kind of feeling the base of the dried flowers, and I don't feel anything like a sage seed forming in there, but that makes sense because we have no pollinators, so why would the seeds form? For now though, I'm just going to let them continue to do their thing. I've knocked them about a little bit while I've been down here checking on things. Hopefully that means the next set of flowers that are kind of drying up will form some seeds, but you never really know. Oh, that was close. That was almost in the fish tank with those scissors, and at the same time almost in my foot. So I'll just pick those up. Not sure how well they're showing up in the camera because I got a really small feedback monitor, but the sages that we put in here from the Arrow Garden all seem to be doing fairly well. This one in the front seems to be doing best of all. Again, this could be the situation of, you know, most water and most nutrients at the front of the bed, and then, you know, less as we get towards the back. But look at this mint. This mint is outrageous. Doesn't seem to be having any issues. Definitely going to get some of that. It's fantastic having all this stuff growing down in the basement. Not only for the chickens, but for us when we get around to eating it too. Always got mojito supplies, that's a good thing. So we'll trim that back a little bit. Trim this. This is the mint from the Arrow Garden. It's just shooting right up for the stars there, so that's not bad. I mean, yeah, we've got like a dozen chickens out there, so it's not much each, but it's fresh greens in December, or pardon me, January. That's the New Year's for ya. It's fresh greens in the middle of winter, and it's good healthy stuff. So the fish are feeding the garden's feeding the birds are making the eggs, they're giving us money through that. It's this weird sort of loop, but it seems to work. So yeah, that's fun and interesting. All right, and then looking at things on the other side of the aquaponic garden here, we've got the mouse melon still trucking along. It's got itself a nice little creeper vine going off to the side here. Unfortunately, you know, all of these vines that grew over the winter last year, move that forward a little bit, all of these vines that grew over the winter last year ended up dying off in the intense summer sunshine. So I've got to find a better way to transition this, but it did regrow. I mean, this is the same mouse melon seed. This is its second winter inside. It's all regrowing from that. So we had 2 summers, 2 winters. This is going to be its 3rd season outdoors. It's an absolutely crazy stubborn plant. And to think, it's basically, it's a cucumber, right? Like the mouse melon is a curcubit. It's a cucamelon, I think is the actual proper name for it. I don't think they're supposed to be able to do this, but it's doing it just fine. So that is wonderful. I'm really curious to see what happens when we put this outside again. I mean, last year I think we had some tomatoes that sprouted up out of this and all kinds of fun stuff. So, and then over here in the bucket we've got this is the bog mint. This is the one that just sat in the edge of the fish tank and sucked up whatever nutrients from that. It's been sitting in pond water for most of this, well, I'll say winter so far, but I'm looking at it from this angle here. I see it is a little bit low, so I'll just top that up from the fish tank, and essentially it's got pond water again because it's the same fish. But I got to top their actual water up first before I can take anything out of that because they're looking a little low. All right, so we got a couple things that have managed to survive coming in over the winter. I didn't bring in any peppers because that never works for me, right? But mint, not at all surprised that it lived. The mouse melon, this just amuses the heck out of me, and I don't see any aphids on either of these plants, so that's really exciting. I don't know if they're just not interested in the plants, or somehow we have killed them off en masse this year or what, but very excited. So far I have no signs of aphid life in any of the edibles down here. Like I say, the last place I saw them was in the bucket o' calanchos, which I guess we might as well check out on the Darwin table before we call it a wrap today. So there's really not a lot going on here that I would call successful these days. Oh, and cue the pump on the aquaponics. But this big old bucket of calanchos is doing really well. Now these are all the ones that were in the solo cups for so long. I just kind of stuffed them into a single thing. And surprisingly, you know, because I got just one household light way up above it and one household light just off to the side, they're doing okay. They do still sort of look like they may still have some aphids on there. But, you know what? little hydrogen peroxide mixed into some water with that pump sprayer. I could probably blast those suckers off and be okay. That said, still not taking this anywhere near pepper plants or, you know, anything like that. I did say we were going to top up the iron level in the aquaponics, so I've got a little beaker here. Didn't buy this anywhere, it just kind of came with the house. I've scooped up some of the fish tank water. Now the iron chelate that I use, this is 7% stuff. Like I say, this is the stuff that I got way back in Penticton, and I really don't use much of it. Like, it's got this big old scoop, and hopefully you can see though just how little of this scoop I have in here. And I'm only going to put some of that into this water because I don't like adding too much at once. I kind of think it may have been what killed off those beautiful koi that I had in our last few years out in the valley, but you can give this a swirl because it's a handy little beaker, or I'll get one of the little irrigation holders from that Euro Garden. But like with anything powdered that you're putting in as a nutrient or whatever, just make sure it's well mixed into the liquid and you're good to go. And then also, I don't like to pour this directly into the fish tank. Instead, what I tend to do with it is I add it to the media bed in the general area of the plants that seem to need it the most. So, you know, we'll turn over a little bit because this basil definitely seems to need it. Add it to the thyme here. Hopefully it'll make a difference for them. That way, you know, like, it's going to go on the roots eventually, but this is the more concentrated stuff. So if it's really needing a good shock of iron, hopefully this helps. I have no idea if it actually does or not, but, you know, it's been working for me so far. And then, yeah, I'll just kind of pour that out amongst the rest of the plants. The mint doesn't really need any help, but we'll give it some anyway. And that's all there really is to it. It's going to make the water look like somebody peed in it, to be honest, but I need to top up the water levels in here anyway, and that will clear up as it gets sucked up by the plants. So it's really quite an affordable thing. I mean, yeah, it is adding additional inputs into the garden, and I would like to be able to run this completely closed, but I don't think that's going to work for me right now, especially in this basement setup. But I do think that's the wrap for the day, so I'm going to leave you with a quick look at the plants while I say thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a fantastic week ahead. All right, much love, everybody. Take care of yourselves, take care of your gardens, take care of what the universe puts in front of you. You know, it's all good. And like I usually say, we'll be back here together next week. So, yeah, much love, everybody.